So I'm gonna assume that you actually read the title of this video before clicking it. Basically, Squid Game. Was it really fair? Now I think it wasn't. Some people might think, yeah man, it was fair. Cause you know, they put a lot of effort into trying to appear to be fair. The game players got a little contract. It seemed like they were trying to be honest. We're being honest with you. We're being fair. You signed a contract. And hey, everyone joined the game on their own accord. But I don't think it was fair. There's a lot of things to this. And that's going to be a prepared presentation I have for you today. That's a previous presentation. Okay. First of all. Oh, by the way, I'm assuming that you actually watched Squid Game. If you haven't watched Squid Game, you're going to have to watch it before watching this video. It might not make sense, or maybe it would make sense, but it definitely won't be relevant to you. And there definitely will be spoilers. But let's just quickly go over some of my issues. The old man issue is pretty much the easiest one to point out. See, this dude was like, hey, I want to participate in the game. It ain't no fun just watching. But the game should be, if you play and you lose, you die. But old man didn't die. Old man lost the game. Sure, he agreed to lose, it was a deal, whatever. It doesn't matter. You think other players who let the other person win got to go scot-free? Nuh-uh. He wasn't really playing the game then, was he? So, he cheated. So, definitely not fair. And if you can't tell, that was just a warm-up. Issue number 2. Death. First and foremost, when these people enter the game, a lot of people are like, yeah, well they entered on their own accord. But come on, they were never told that in this game you could die. They only found out that you could die after people died. So the first people died not knowing that they could die in this game. That ain't fair. You should be able to know that this is a game where you could die. They had plenty of opportunity and chance to tell them that, but they didn't. I mean, like we pointed out right in the beginning, it seemed like they wanted to be open and honest about what's going on. They gave a little contract and it's like, yeah, but if you really wanted to be honest, you wouldn't withhold information that is obviously pertinent to the other parties in the contract. Like, are they gonna die? They entered without knowledge. They entered the game without knowing that it is a game that they could die in. That wasn't made clear before having entered the game. And if it was going to be a game where there's no hold bar anyway, then you wouldn't have given such a contract saying, oh, you agreed to it. Once you start the game, you can call a game whatever you want then and just make it like 10 years of slavery. Here's 10 years of slavery. That's the game. And sorry, you can't exit the game until it's finished. And the game might be, ah yeah, 10 years of slavery and all of you die and only one survives. That's the game. I mean, if they want to do that, then they are doing that, and they're doing that over power. It's not exactly consent of the other person if there's knowledge that they need to make proper consent, including whether or not they're going to die. Now, I talk about this on some other stuff, issues, but definitely knowledge is part of consent. So, we got another issue with death, though, because it seems like it should be that nobody should die in the game, except while they're playing the games. After the games are over, it shouldn't be a matter of them still being in threat. Certainly other players can kill other players, it's not like they're gonna stop that, but it shouldn't be the game that causes death on the players once games are over. At least I think so. That's supposed to be how it's fair, right? So what I found unfair is that bridge blowing up with the glass and everything. You know, the second last game you could say. That glass shot everywhere. And all the winners of the game just waiting on the other side of the balcony, just getting shot up with friggin' glass. That's the reason why that girl died. That girl died after that game was over, caused by that game. Those players should have exited that balcony place if they knew it was gonna blow up. That ain't fair. You really ain't taking care of your players then, are you? It seems like you wouldn't necessarily murder or inflict harm on your players if it's not in game. It seemed like you value them as players for the game, but in this case, they didn't really take care of her at all. It seemed like they were willing to let her die due to their own negligence. Number 3, choice. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, the game is fair because everyone chose to join. They joined under their own choice. First of all, I already covered the fact that they didn't give proper consent in the beginning because they didn't know they were gonna die. So, whatever. The point is that still a lot of people think that they entered under their own choice and they're playing the game because they choose to. But that's really not the case. The case of exiting the game, if you want to leave, you can leave, is only possible with the majority. So technically it's possible that 49 people, out of 100 let's say, definitely don't want to play the game anymore and are forced to continue playing this lethal game that they don't want to play. This is one of the reasons why Plato didn't like democracy, you know, because it kind of killed his master Socrates. But if you have the majority be fools, then you're going to have a foolish direction. A minority group being abused by the choices of the majority who might be fools. I mean, this is part of the reason why America is supposed to be a constitutional democracy or whatever like that, you know? Anyway, in terms of choice, it's clear that you can't exactly argue that you could leave whenever you want. No, you couldn't. And 49 people, 51 could say you're forced to play the game, you couldn't leave whenever you want. Not everybody in there is in there by choice after finding out that it's friggin' lethal. You could only ever leave if the majority was swayed by you. In which case, people with enough social, political influence, maybe not political, but certainly social influence, who can sway the majority into their favor, because intelligence doesn't matter, only thing matters is popularity in this case, much like what happens in democracies, well, then that person wields sufficient power to leave or not. It's not equal for everybody, and it's not exactly fair in that sense. It's not exactly everyone's choice. Majority abuse of minority. Sorry for my writing. I don't normally do this type of video, you know, with a thing or whatever. Anyway, there's another point here which I think is a little bit softer because people won't really get it too much, although it's probably the realest issue here, certainly for philosophers, as we consider it. Choice under coercion is not truly choice. Somebody could hold a gun to your head and put a cupcake in front of you and say, you have a choice. You can eat that cupcake or I'm gonna shoot you in the head right now. Now if you eat that cupcake and somebody comes up to you and says, haha, see, you chose to eat the cupcake. Well, like, it wasn't really a free choice then, was it? No, it's not. It's massive coercion. And for these people in this show, man, my lips are so chapped. Anyway, for these people in this show, they are definitely not within free choice of this game. It's pretty much die outside or die in the game because, you know, it's only one chance of one person's gonna win. So sure, they might be saying I choose to get that chance, but it's a situation that's placed on them. And that's why many people would say that this show is a criticism of capitalism. And certainly this show definitely, even if it's not a criticism of capitalism on large, it certainly is a criticism of how bad it can get when you're in massive debt. Coercion. I think this is also a kind of soft argument and not really all that compelling because it's not like the game creators were the ones who created the condition of the other hand being slow death outside due to massive debt. They didn't create that situation. However, they are still taking advantage of it to reap what they wanted and enjoyment that they like to watch people play these death games. The only way it seems like it's still okay is because one of the people can win all the money, and that chance of winning all the money still seems better in that situation than, I guess, dying of starvation on the street or whatever it is. Oh, having your organs harvested. Seems to be a super popular thing happening in East Asia. Anyway, I want to conclude this video because I don't want it to be too long. These are just some considerations. I have many others too, and I don't want to get too detailed because I'm sure you don't want to have to listen to me too much. But now, if you take these arguments all together, you begin to see how, yeah, it wasn't exactly fair. Despite how they seem to want to put out contracts and say, oh, the majority can decide if you want to leave, or even punishing those people who went outside the rules because they got an unfair advantage, there's still a number of minor things that you can nitpick, but also larger, more consequential questions that we can ask about whether or not Squid Game was actually fair. So you can tell me whether or not you think this game was actually fair. I just want to point out, in my conclusion here, that there's one question I just thought that they could have tapped into, which was the potential for nobility. There was this potential one rule in the game where if the majority decides to exit the game, the remaining funds would go to all the fallen people who had died. So the money can actually be properly dispersed to the families or whoever of the people who died. That seems like an awesome option for the maximum utility of happiness here. Now, I'm not exactly utilitarian. If I were to work on the idea of maximizing the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of people, I certainly would think that this is a potential for an interesting part of the story. If, say, the majority is easily 2 out of 3 people. The last 3 people could make it that everyone sacrificed in this game could have their debts paid out. And they should maybe, nobly, recognize that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I don't think they gain all the knowledge or information of all the other people participating in the game if they do win. They don't really get that, so it's not like one could win and have the disbursement ability to make sure every person gets the money. But certainly there might be a last 3 people who can think about that if they want to. Anyway, that's a potentiality. I didn't really work it through properly or really think about it. I just thought it's really a interesting potential that they kind of left untapped. Hey, I heard there's going to be a Squid Game 2 now though. That sounds pretty dope. Maybe they'll tap into that. Who knows? What did you think? Did you think it was really fair? Did you think old man being able to quit whenever he wanted to and not be shot was fair? Do you think that majority rule and potential abuse of minority decisions and choices is fair? Do you think that other things too? I don't have to recap all of it. Figure it out. Listen, I got a lot of other videos coming out, but to be honest with you, my soul is broken now, or something like that.